Okay, so have you ever just stopped and wondered what makes some leaders, some companies, so incredibly influential? I mean, really, what's their secret? Well, it's not luck, and it's not magic. It's actually a really simple, powerful pattern that I promise you, once you see it, you are going to start noticing it everywhere. So let's break it down.
All right, let's start with a big question. A puzzle, really, that the author Simon Sinek poses. Why is it that some leaders and some organizations just seem to inspire greatness, while others, well, they have all the same resources, maybe even more, and they just fail? As it turns out, there's a reason, a totally predictable one. And believe me, it has nothing to do with luck.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Think about Apple, always somehow one step ahead, constantly out-innovating everyone. Or think about Martin Luther King Jr., who literally rallied a nation for civil rights. Or how about the Wright brothers? These guys had hardly any funding, yet they were the ones who cracked the code of powered flight. Now, you might think these are just, isolated cases of success. But they're not. They are all connected by a shared way of thinking, an approach that let them totally defy their circumstances.
So, what is that common thread? Well, it's a simple but incredibly powerful pattern in how they thought and, crucially, how they communicated. Sinek gives it a name, the Golden Circle. And this little idea, it's the key, the absolute key to their extraordinary success.
And look, the Golden Circle isn't just some clever business model you'd find in a textbook. No, it's more like a framework. It basically decodes how these legendary leaders and organizations actually operate. It's the difference between inspiring real action and just, motivating people with a carrot and a stick.
Okay, so here's how it works. It's built on 3 layers. On the outside, you've got the what. This is easy. Every single company on the planet knows what they do. Then you go 1 layer deeper and you've got the how, their unique process, what makes them special. But right at the very core, at the center of it all, that's the secret ingredient. That's the why. And listen, when we say why, we are not talking about making a profit. That's just a result. The why is the real stuff, the purpose, the cause, the belief that drives everything they do. Okay, so here's the crucial point. Most of us, and I mean most companies too, we communicate from the outside in. It's natural, right? We start with the clearest, easiest thing, what we do. Then, maybe if we're feeling fancy, we'll talk about how we're different. But that why? We almost never get to the why. But, and this is the whole game changer, the most inspiring leaders, the most inspiring organizations, they do the complete opposite. They flip the whole thing on its head. They think, act, and communicate from the inside out. They always start with why.
All right, let's put this to the test. Let's take a real-world example that we all know, Apple. Because this is where you can really feel the difference, the power of starting with why.
Okay, so if Apple were like pretty much every other company, their marketing would sound something like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? And, it's fine. It's okay. But it's not exactly inspiring, is it? But that's not what Apple does. Instead, they start from the inside out. They start with their why. They say, in everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. And only after all that, they say, we just happen to make great computers. Do you feel that difference? I mean, it's huge. One is just a sales pitch. The other is a declaration of a belief.
And this really gets to the core of this whole idea. As Sinek says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The computer, the phone, that's just the proof. It's the tangible evidence of that belief. I mean, think about the brands you're really loyal to. It's not just about the product, is it? It's often about what they stand for.
Okay, now this is where things get really interesting. Because this whole thing, it's not just some clever marketing gimmick or a psychological trick. Nope. The power of the Golden Circle is actually rooted deep in human biology, in the literal structure of our brains.
So, get this. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain, it maps almost perfectly onto the Golden Circle. The outer part, our newest brain, the neocortex, that corresponds to the what level. That's our rational, analytical brain. It handles language. But the inner parts, the limbic system, that's where the how and why live. And that's where all our feelings come from, things like trust and loyalty.
So what does that mean? It means when we communicate with a list of features and benefits, all that what stuff, we're talking to the analytical part of the brain. It can understand all the facts and figures you throw at it. It can process the information. But here's the thing. That part of the brain doesn't drive behavior. It doesn't make decisions. But when you communicate your why,
You're speaking directly to the limbic system, and that's the part that controls behavior. It's the source of our gut decisions. You know what I'm talking about, right? This is why you can give someone all the facts, all the data, and they'll look at you and say, I hear everything you're saying, but it just doesn't feel right. That feeling, that's their limbic brain, and it's the one making the real call.
So if you can get really clear and articulate your why, you're doing so much more than just selling a product. You are literally tapping directly into the decision-making center of the brain. And that means you can do more than just motivate people. You can truly inspire them to action.
And this whole principle, it's absolutely critical if you want to understand how ideas catch on and spread like wildfire through society. There's actually a theory for this. It's called the law of diffusion of innovation, and it lines up perfectly with why starting with why is so darned effective.
Okay, so this law basically breaks down the population based on how fast people are to jump on new ideas. First up, you've got your innovators and early adopters. They're always first in line. Then you've got the big chunks, the early and late majority, the people who kind of wait and see. And finally, you've got the laggards. And yeah, we all know someone like that. The person who only buys a new phone when their old flip phone literally falls apart. Now here is the key. To get your idea to spread to everyone, to the masses, you have to cross this critical tipping point. You've got to convince that first 15 to 18% of the market. It's only after you've won over that first group that the rest of the majority will even start to pay attention.
And here's where it all connects back. That first group of people, the innovators, the early adopters, they are the ones who are most comfortable making those gut decisions we talked about. They act on their beliefs. They don't buy your product for what it does. They buy it because of why you do it. They are literally buying your why.
And this, right here, is exactly how you build a movement. Let's go back to the summer of 1963. 250,000 people showed up in Washington, D.C. to hear Martin Luther King Jr. speak. Think about that. He didn't send out a mass email. There were no invitations. There was no website to check for the date. He just went around the country telling people what he believed. He shared his why.
You know, there's a reason he gave the I have a dream speech, and not the I have a plan speech. A plan, that appeals to our analytical brain. But a dream speaks directly to our hearts, to that limbic system. And that is what inspires people to action. And all of this brings us to a really fundamental difference. The difference between just being a leader and being someone who truly leads. Leaders, well, they hold the position of power or authority. We follow them because we have to. But those who lead, they inspire us. We follow them not because we have to, but because we genuinely want to. In the end, we follow those who lead not really for them, but for ourselves. We follow them because they give a voice to the beliefs we already hold dear. That ability to inspire, it all starts with one thing: being crystal clear on your purpose. So I guess the only question left is, what's your why?